Switch to T-Mobile's 55 Plus plan and get iPhone 16e on us and 2 lines for just $30 a line.
With 24 monthly bill credits and 2 eligible port-ins on Essentials 55 Plus for well-qualified customers with autopay plus taxes, fees, and $35 device connection charge. Credits end and balance due if you pay off early or cancel. Contact us. Finance agreement 128 gigabytes, $599.99 required. Best mobile network in the U.S. based on analysis by Ookla of Speed Test Intelligence data 1H 2025. Visit T-Mobile.com.
Hey, it's Mike Evans. Restore your bald spot, reverse your receding hairline, or add volume to thinning hair with the same simple one-day treatment I receive from Dr. Tanya Pauls of Advanced Hair. Your own natural hair begins regrowing the very next day, and your new hair is guaranteed to grow. Advanced Hair has changed tens of thousands of lives, including mine. For your free consultation, $250 off and 250 free hair grafts, call 720-459-HAIR, advancedhair.com.
If you've been injured in Colorado, you want Wilhite. After an accident, you want Colorado's accident experts on your side, the Wilhite Law Firm. Get your free case review right now. Just call 303-GOOD-LAW today or visit WilhiteWins.com and win big with Wilhite.
Need a new water heater? Euro Plumbing has lifetime warranties, great financing, and low pricing. 720-500-3000. 720-500-3000.
KKFN and KKFN HD1 Longmont, Denver. You're listening to Denver Sports 104.3 The Fan. It's Reaction Monday, powered by Silter Har Motors. Here's Denver Sports Tonight.
Mike and Dante on a Monday edition. Another, not only Reaction Monday, but how about 10 straight Victory Mondays? Well, in theory. Oh, my goodness. Not every Broncos win in the streak has come on a Sunday, of course, but we'll call it close enough. How are you, Dante? How was the weekend?
I'm doing good, Mike. It was good. It was good just to get back in the swing of things.
Yeah.
I had some friends in town 2 weekends ago. Then I went to Phoenix for Thanksgiving, so it was good just to have a normal, back to the regular schedule.
Yeah, I mean the Broncos. We're gonna dive into our impressions and kind of put a bow on Victory Monday and Reaction Monday. We'll talk some college football. It's just, I honestly. I could talk college football all show, but we're not going to. It's just such a great discussion about the playoffs, who got snubbed, the Notre Dame decision, other schools deciding to bail on the bowls, and all the rest. Really interesting. Remember back in the day, Dante, when bowl games were actually a thing? Not so much anymore.
Oh, yeah, you used to just get tied to the bowl. It didn't even matter, there was no 14 playoff. There wasn't even a BCS championship for the longest time.
No, the Pac-10, Pac-12, Big Ten, going to the Rose Bowl. That was it, no matter what. Those were the days. The Poulon Weed Eater Independence Bowl in Shreveport, Louisiana. I go back as far as the Astro Bluebonnet Bowl in Houston. I digress to start the show. All right, Broncos, if you want to weigh in, do so. The RamosLaw.com text line is there, as always, 303-713-1043. And we will start with the Broncos. They dismantled the Raiders 24-17 with all of. Yes, you looked at me wide-eyed there.
No, well, you said they dismantled them. Would you say they dominated them?
You want to pick that one up? I would say that. Yes, I absolutely would say the Broncos dominated.
There we go. You and Phil. That's the winning vote. That's what we needed, Mike.
And you know what's interesting? When Zach and Phil differ, most of the time, or at least a good portion of the time, I'm with Zach. Just I don't know why. Not because I don't like Phil. I love Phil. But on this one, yeah, they dominated.
I'm the same way. Usually it's me and Zach are on the same team. But no, I had to take Phil's side. I think he was right. I think they did dominate in the win.
Yeah, I do too. And if you want to weigh in on the RamosLaw.com text line, feel free. And here's why I say that. The statistics were not close. When you watch the game, I think most people, at least in Broncos country, most objective observers, never really felt like the Raiders were going to win that game. That's a factor. That's a piece of the puzzle. For a good portion of the game, the Raiders were down by double digits. If not a touchdown, then double digits. And the only reason it wasn't a double-digit win was because of Pete Carroll's shenanigans with the field goal that didn't matter. And I look at just the way the game went, the way the statistics board out, and to me, it was a dominating performance by the Broncos. It was. You have 3 drives that are 8:54 or longer, you are dominating offensively. Now, I mean, you have to turn them into points, and they did. So I would call it that. I don't think it really matters. What matters to me, Dante, is the way the Broncos took steps forward, and there were several areas that they did so, which I thought were really important. And I want to get into those and get your thoughts on what some of those were. And for those of you in Broncos country, what were the top priorities, the top takeaways? I'm really glad the Broncos looked better in this area, fill in the blank. And that's where I want to start. And if you had to pick the top area, or maybe it's an individual performance, maybe it's the way a certain unit performed, what would top your list?
RJ Harvey in the run game. I expected him to have his best performance of the year, and I think it's fair to say that he did, at least rushing the ball. Obviously, he had the 3-touchdown game earlier in the year, but his ability to be that down in and down out guy, similar to what we've seen from J.K. Dobbins. It wasn't exactly the same style, but his ability to be a, quote unquote bell cow running back in the game, I thought was very impressive and gives me hope for the Broncos moving forward that they can pair the running game with Bo Nix in the air attack, along with this, incredible defense, and go out there and win some playoff games. Because to me, that's still the biggest question mark: is are they going to be able to run the game or run the ball when the games get bigger and when you are stepping up in an opponent and the quality of opponent? Obviously, the Raiders aren't, the step up in quality of opponent, but I think you need to start with doing it against the lesser teams before I can believe you're going to do it against the greater teams.
I think that's fair, and I think that certainly is on my list. I think generally speaking, though, it's what I was talking about a moment ago. It's that the Broncos went out and just handled an opponent, and they didn't play down to the Raiders' level. They didn't mess around. They didn't play with their food, so to speak, and let the Raiders hang around. The bulk of that game, the Raiders were down and out. I mean, they're a down and out organization as it is. But you go back to a month ago in Denver, that was a very close game. The Broncos didn't play well at all. Just the whole operation was more along the lines of what I wanted to see from a team that's challenging for the number 1 seed in the AFC and has aspirations to go deep in the playoffs. And I liked the execution. I loved the running game, Harvey in particular, as you stated. I love what Bo did. Thought he was in control for, the third straight week now. Go back to KC. I thought Bo was pretty calm against Washington in that game, and certainly came up big when he had to. And then I just thought he was in control. I thought he was poised. I thought he looked like he just had better command and all of that in this game. Throughout the game. And Dante, the whole operation offensively is what I wanted to see. Yes, there's that asterisk. It was the Raiders. It wasn't the Packers. Now let's see if they can do it against the Packers. But I loved the entire operation. I really did.
Yeah, no, it was a dominant win is what we were saying. It was, from the beginning to the end. The only concern I had was the Raiders going down and scoring that touchdown right away. I thought that was a little concerning, or just unexpected maybe is a better word for it. I thought this defense was going to hold the Raiders to under 10 points, and they're well on their way to doing that. Some late scores there for the Raiders, but I thought it was just a well-rounded win for the Broncos that was never in doubt. The offense looked good. Bo Nix looked good. Sean Payton, I thought, looked really good as a play caller. It kind of felt like he was doing whatever he wanted, whenever he wanted. These long, sustained drives, through the air and running the ball. It kind of mixed it up, did it all. So I was really impressed by everybody pretty much. Obviously Marvin Mims has the great punt return as well.
Yeah.
Will Lutz was lights out. I think he went 3 for 3 on extra points and then also hit a field goal at some point. So, not really anything to point to of like, I wish that would have been better.
No, I would agree. And that's what I'm talking about, the whole operation. I'm going to point to another factor that I've really wanted to see, and I saw it, and that was the Broncos made it a point to get Courtland Sutton more involved. He had 10 targets, which I thought was terrific. Sutton had 6 catches. Now, I didn't have a touchdown. I think those will be there. Those will be coming back. But to see the Broncos and Bo make it a point to look for Court in just a more focused way, Dante, you and I had talked about that. Many others had talked about it. Get Court the football, and they did.
Yeah, it felt like on every big third down or every time they really needed it, Sutton came up big on a lot of those. He's just so sure-handed when he's out there. There's just so much confidence that I have as a viewer, so I'm assuming Bo has even more confidence when he's throwing him the ball. Same with Sean Payton. I'm sure they're ultra confident in what Courtland Sutton brings to this team, and it's just another level of assuredness that a Troy Franklin doesn't quite bring, or even an Evan Ingram doesn't quite bring. And I think that's why it's really important that he's on this team. And Sean Payton obviously sees that. That's why they're willing to give him the big contract extension over the summer. So it was good to get them to get back to what makes them great, which is Courtland Sutton running the ball and Bo Nix making plays.
I thought it was great to see Court more involved. The other thing, too, about Harvey, which I really liked, was not just the production, 75 yards, but the 17 carries. And then you add on to that the fact that he had 6 catches out of the backfield. So that's 23 touches for 100 total yards. So it wasn't only the production, but it was also the opportunities. Those obviously can go hand in hand. When you're producing, you're going to get the football, or at least you should. And I love to see that. And I would expect more of that moving forward in both departments. I think it'll be more difficult against Green Bay, but that's the next step. Can the Broncos sustain that? Can R.J. Harvey himself sustain that kind of production? I loved it. The Broncos rushed for 152 yards. That might be the quietest 152 you'll see. They did that on 31 carries. And Dante, Bo Nix only carried the ball 3 times. I thought that was significant. Now, we were among those who voiced the opinion that we wouldn't mind seeing some more designed runs, but if you don't have to run Bo Nix, now they did on the first touchdown. He scored that. But if you don't have to run Bo, that's a plus. Why put him at risk? They didn't really have to run Bo yesterday, and I thought that was a step forward.
Yeah, I think in this game you didn't really need to resort to that. I think in the next 4 games it might be a little different of a story. You got some quality opponents on the schedule here, so I think that could definitely come into play more often than what we saw last game. But yeah, you were in control the whole game. There was never really a doubt that you were going to win. So yeah, don't put Bo Nix at risk and go out there and have him run all the time. You even saw on one of the, I think they ended up scoring a touchdown on the drive, but he went out wide and kind of pump fake. He probably could have run that in if he wanted to, and I think that would have been, a touchdown, 7 points for the Broncos there. Instead, pumps it and then ends up throwing it out of bounds, I want to say, to R.J. Harvey in the end zone. Incomplete, but I think that maybe there's a conscious effort there from him to not put himself at risk and to not run more than he needed to.
Yeah, well, and when you are dominating, there's no need to put yourself at risk. We're just going to keep on Zach, aren't we? Oh, my goodness. Here's another factor. It had been a minute since Nick Bonito was in the sack department and was maybe that's unfair. It just had made his presence felt as a pass rusher like he had earlier in the year. He had the 2 sacks yesterday. I just thought that was good to see number 15 get back in that department and feel like, all right, not that I thought he forgot how to rush the quarterback, but sometimes you just want the numbers. You want the stats. You want the production to follow. And I thought the pressure rate was much, much better. The pass rush generated, 4 sacks, not quite the 6 they got against Geno here in Denver, but certainly was a factor, and I liked them. I liked seeing the Broncos get back to that.
Yeah, it'd been a little quiet from Nick Bonito in the middle of the season. He's come back as of late here, so it was good to see him get some pressure on the Raiders. And when you're in control of a game like that and the other team has to drop back and throw it as many times as they did, I think that only helps this pass rush get home in those situations where Ashton Genty clearly wasn't running the ball very well. I'm not going to blame that on him necessarily, but let's call it the Raiders weren't running the ball that well, and you have to pass the ball at that point. The Raiders even made a concerted effort to get the ball out of Geno Smith's hands fast, quicker than what they obviously did in their game earlier in the season on Thursday Night Football. So even with that concerted effort to get the ball out of his hands quicker, to run the ball with Ashton Genty, to still get 4 sacks, I think that was really impressive, and something that the Broncos defense obviously started off the year very hot in. That was kind of their calling card was, wow, their ability to get pressure on the quarterback and how quickly they do it. I think that's going to obviously have to be huge for them if they want to make a playoff run and a Super Bowl run.
First 6 games of the year, Benito had at least 1 sack in 5 of them. The only exception was the Colts game. So that took the Broncos through the London game against the Jets. Then you look at the next 5 games, Giants, Cowboys, Texans, Raiders first time, and the Chiefs. And Benito had a sack and a half against the Raiders. Those other 4 games, a goose egg as far as sacks go. Then he had 1 against the Commanders, to your point of kind of getting back, and he had the big play on the 2-point conversion in overtime, and then the 2 sacks yesterday. So maybe we're seeing Nick Benito kind of get that second wind, if you will. Again, not because there was a lack of effort, not because that he forgot how to be a good player, he forgot how to rush the passer, any of that. I mean, teams are going to key on these guys. They're going to pick their matchups to try and neutralize certain pass rushers for the Broncos, depending on whatever team they're playing and how they match up. And the fact that he got back into the act, the defense in general kind of got back to just suffocating a team. And again, it is under the asterisk of it was the Raiders, but they still took care of business, and that's what you should do against the Raiders.
Yeah, and I think it's unfair to use this, asterisk, it was against the Raiders. The Broncos nearly lost to the Raiders, like a month ago? At home, too. So I think that every opponent in the NFL can be taken seriously. I'm not going to look at it through a championship lens necessarily, but I think you still want to go out there and play good football regardless of who the opponent is. And you mentioned that Nick Benito, obviously these other teams are going to scheme for him a little bit, but if you truly want to be considered in the realm of defensive player of the year in the NFL, all of those guys get schemed for. You don't think teams are worried about Myles Garrett? Did you see the clip of Myles Garrett? I think it was like a week or 2 ago, where the other team kept trying to put a tight end on him to chip, and he just switched sides from left to right, and the tight end had a motion from left to right multiple times, and then the opposing team just had to call timeout on offense because they're like, I don't know what we keep doing with this, because he just kept switching sides and was throwing off the offense. It was very funny. But yeah, to me, you have to be able to overcome these other teams scheming for you, and you have to be able to still make an impact on the game, and obviously he was able to do that.
Mike and Dante on Denver Sports tonight, 303-713-1043 on the RamosLaw.com text line. From the 54-47, Harvey's the MVP of the Raider game, pinballed off 2 Raiders on the opening drive and got the first down. That was a massive play. Huge play right there. Absolute individual effort. Got it done. And again, that early in the game, you'd like to think the Raiders are still at least mildly interested, and they were, because they answered the Broncos' touchdown on their opening series. The Raiders were able to go down and get one. But Harvey was terrific. And I guess this is the question I have about R.J. Harvey moving forward and about the Broncos' running game. And I think it's worthy of at least starting the discussion, because if the Broncos wrap up the AFC West, wrap up the number 1 seed, and then make some noise in the playoffs, in other words, don't just go one and done, and J.K. Dobbins is not in the picture, does that at all change either the organization's or Broncos country's view of whether or not they go out and bring or try to bring J.K. Dobbins back? If we see R.J. Harvey become the best version of himself, a productive back, a guy who can shoulder most of the load and be productive, does that do anything as far as the future of J.K. Dobbins in Denver?
I haven't really thought about that, but I think it absolutely does. And we've heard Sean Payton, a handful of times mention, hey, we liked RJ Harvey, the runner. That's why we drafted him. And obviously his out-of-the-backfield skills have really popped, especially early in the year when J.K. Dobbins was still healthy and playing the bulk of the snaps that he was. So I think it has to change their plan. If RJ Harvey can go out there and show that he can be successful as not only as an offensive weapon catching the ball out of the backfield, but also an in-between the tackles running back, I think he would have to be your 1A running back going into next year. And then maybe you can I think you still have to add somebody to the room to supplement. I don't think the room can be Harvey, Bidet, McLaughlin. I think that's asking for a lot. But I think you could have Harvey be the main running back, or at least the plan at running back, and then maybe supplement him with a more legitimate number 2.
But if it's a veteran number 2, then that guy's got to be okay with being number 2.
Yeah, no, obviously, yeah, that goes into it. But I think we see veteran running backs being number 2 in the NFL. Most of them are.
Do you think J.K. would want to come back and be the thunder and lightning, be the 1-2 punch, and that would just give Sean more options?
I don't know. Obviously, it probably depends on payday, what he can get outside of the Broncos. If some other team around the league is offering him a bigger role and bigger payday, I think that would go into it. I don't think he's going to come back to the Broncos just because it's the Broncos or just because he was fairly successful to start this year. I think for him, it's going to matter a lot about role and what that paycheck's going to look like. I wouldn't mind having him back, but obviously you'd have to make it clear to him if RJ Harvey is successful. And if Sean Payton's plan is that he wants Harvey to be the guy, I think obviously you just have to communicate that with whoever you're bringing in.
Right, and we're early in the process of RJ being the number 1 guy and being the main or the first option, maybe is the best way to put it, out of the backfield. So we're collecting data. There's no answer to this. It's just something I wanted to toss out because I agree with you, Dante. I think that it has to play into the Broncos' minds of this is something of an audition for RJ Harvey. How ready can he be by whenever the season ends, however deep in the playoffs it ends? What can he show about being, I'm not going to use the BC word, the bell cow word, but just the main guy in the backfield? I would agree, though. If the Broncos don't bring Dobbins back, they have to bring another running back into the room along with Jaleel and potentially Bidet, at least for training camp. And the other thought I had to this would be, do they draft another running back? Maybe not second round, but maybe third round, fourth round, a mid-round kind of pick, second day, perhaps a third day back, where at least you're bringing in maybe a more developmental guy that you like and you feel that down the road could help out a little bit. There are a lot of options if Harvey continues to develop, is the point.
No, I like that idea of you could draft somebody in that third, fourth, fifth round to really come in and make an impact as that number 2 back. But yeah, I think a lot of it hinges on what we see from Harvey the rest of the way here. Can he be that number 1 option out of the backfield? And I think Sean loves that he can use them all over the place, though. I think Sean loves that. Obviously, he has the ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. You can line him up out wide even. He's shown that he's, a capable route runner, capable hands there. And then we're seeing more and more of his ability to run between the tackles. And again, I think we're going to see the real test as we go forward. That Packers defense they have next, that's a legitimate defense. And you could even throw Jacksonville and Kansas City in there too. So I think we'll know a lot more about Harvey after the next 4 weeks.
I would agree. I think it's going to be fun to follow here down the stretch and into the postseason. Back to the RamosLaw.com text line. From the 6102, Jeremiah weighs in. I totally love what we saw from the run game, obviously special teams, and Bo Nix taking what the defense gave him. But Riley freaking Moss, no penalties for the second week in a row. I'm loving it. Go Broncos. God bless Bo Nix.
Those boxing gloves getting put to use, and they're working.
Man, oh, man. I guess so. But you know what? Isn't that just like us who follow the Broncos, talk about the Broncos, overanalyze the Broncos? We'll be the first ones to put Riley under the thumb when he commits a couple of penalties or gets burned here and there. But it's just sort of expected. It's lost in the shuffle when he does his job. The whole defense was pretty darn good yesterday.
Yeah, no, and I liked what I saw from Moss. And, you mentioned there, obviously no penalties. I never blamed Moss too much over the last, this season and last season for the penalty issue. I think a lot of people were overblowing. He's a liability out there on defense. He gets all these penalties. I felt like what he was bringing to the Broncos defense was more pros than cons, even when all those penalties were going on, even when people were complaining about, some blown coverages, if you want to call it that. I still thought he was bringing more than what he was giving up.
All right, we're going to kind of shift it a little bit to the stretch drive. It is now on with 4 games left. The Broncos currently sit in the number 1 seed, the number 1 position in the AFC. There's a team in the AFC that is more concerning to me than others. Tell you who that is next.
The Broncos went into Las Vegas and took down the Raiders, reclaiming their spot as the top seed in the AFC. Is Sean Payton finding balance on offense at just the right time? Denver Sports 104.3. The Fan.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-292-4541 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-292-4541. That's 800-292-4541. What do you have to lose? Call 800-292-4541. Again, 800-292-4541.
Happy holidays from Done Right Home Improvements. Putting off that home makeover till after the holidays? Well, good, because book your project now for install after and save 16% or get a great financing deal. drhi.com.
Brandon Stokely here for Colorado's hometown HVAC team, ROX Rocks Heating and Air. Is your heating system struggling to perform and need to be traded? It has never been easier to get a quote for a new heating system. Rocks Heating and Air offers a free online heating and cooling quoting system so that you can quickly and accurately get pricing on a new system. Only at ROX Rocks Heating and Air. Now play that jingle.
HVAC service, installation, repair, ROX Rocks Heating and Air.
Hey Broncos country, it's Terrell Davis here. You know, in the game of life, our most valuable asset is our health.
At Fitness Gallery, we have deals everywhere, up to 50% off. Visit one of Fitness Gallery's 7 convenient locations from Colorado Springs to Fort Collins. We have you covered.
A lot of personal injury lawyers make claims about how good they are. But how do you know who's the best? Who will fight to get you the money you deserve? At Berg Simpson, we don't rely on simple claims like other firms. We have 27 best lawyers in America, 17 super lawyers, and we're one of the National Trial Lawyers' top 25 most influential law firms. Compare us to other firms, then call Berg Simpson.
If you've been injured, call Berg Simpson for free now at 303-790-2525. BergSimpson.com. Good lawyers changing lives.
Hey guys, boy Steve here today about my long-term buddy Troy Hansford. And if you're thinking about selling your house for any reason, now might be the time to sell, still get top dollar. Believe it or not, my guy Troy is still offering his $5,000 guarantee. What is it, you ask? Well, if you can't sell your house at your price on your timeline that you agree upon beforehand, bam, going to cut you a check for $5,000. Who else makes the offer? Nobody I've ever heard of. And he makes that offer because he continues to spend a ton of money marketing his listings, has about 100 families approved and ready to buy right now. And if for any reason you need to sell right away, Troy can buy your house, all cash, and he can close in as little as 7 days. You have a house to sell, Troy probably has that perfect buyer for you right now, waiting for you to pick up the phone and to call him. Call Troy, get your home sold for the most money. That's 720-900-4433, 720-900-4433. Troy Hansford of RE/MAX Professionals, a Colorado licensed broker. Some restrictions do apply. Want to sell your house? Then call my buddy Troy, 720-900-4433.
You gave years, maybe decades to your job. You showed up, worked hard, and planned for retirement. But now, the company's changed. Or maybe you've taken a buyout or been forced into early retirement. So, what happens next? I'm Jeff Jr., founder of Trajan Wealth. And if you've built up a 401k or thrift savings plan, now is the time to ask, is that money really working for you? Many workplace retirement plans offer limited options and even less guidance. At Trajan Wealth, we help people just like you roll over their accounts into IRAs with more flexibility and personalized investment strategies built around your goals. For households with $500,000 or more, let us build you a personalized plan. We operate on veteran values, service, trust, and doing what's right. Your next chapter starts now. Call Trajan today, 720-204-8100. That's 720-204-8100.
Advisory services offered through Trajan Wealth, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. See website for details.
Peyton Manning here. Throughout my football career, staying healthy was a big priority, but bumps, bruises, and injuries were part of the game. And for me, it's not just the clinical excellence and expertise that sets a medical team apart. It's also the compassion, kindness, and empathy they show. At Common Spirit Health, healing is quality care and human kindness. And my friends at Common Spirit are teaming up with their partners to spread human kindness and create healthy communities. Common Spirit Health. Hello, human kindness.
It's Reaction Monday, powered by Silter Har Motors. Here's Denver Sports Tonight.
Mike Rice, Dante Gomez on a Reaction Monday, a victory Monday for the Broncos, who dominated the Raiders 24-17 yesterday. All right, currently the Broncos are 11-2 in the top spot in the AFC. The Patriots also 11-2, but we know that with the win over the Raiders, the Broncos secured a head-to-head tiebreaker with New England based on common opponents. The rest of the AFC playoffs picture looks like this. Jacksonville 3, Pittsburgh 4, Buffalo 5, the Chargers 6. They're underway against the Eagles. 7-0 LA right now, midway through the first almost. And the Houston Texans are 7th. If I ask you, Dante, what team out of those would be the most concerning, maybe not even the most concerning, but a team that concerns you, which one would you pick?
I would pick the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen. I think that scares the bejesus out of me. Him being able to be the best player on the field in that game and pretty much most games he does play in, particularly in the playoffs. He's a great playoff performer as well. I know he gets a lot of flack for not going to a Super Bowl yet, but he is incredible in a lot of those games, even when the Bills do lose. So I think that would be the answer. I think I know what your answer is, though.
My answer is the Houston
Texans.
Texans.
I knew you were going to say the Texans.
Yeah, and I'll tell you why. If the playoffs were to start today, the wild card round, the Texans would go to New England 7-2, and that is a totally winnable game for the Houston Texans. That defense is going to travel. And I was thinking about this. I was thinking just how impressive and more impressive the Broncos win in Houston is getting by the week for me. And to go down there, and I know C.J. Stroud got hurt, got knocked out of the game. Broncos defense put it on him. And to be able to come away with a hard-fought win in a grinder of a game, that's looking better and better and better right now for me. But this is a Texans team that I'm kind of doing the side eye with, because when you look at Houston and Jacksonville down the stretch, they split during the regular season. Jacksonville won a low-scoring game early in the year when Houston was not playing well. And then the Texans turned the table back in Week 10 when they scored 26 points in the fourth quarter and won 36-29. And that was in Houston. That was the only loss for Jacksonville in their last 6. And both teams have plenty of cupcakes the rest of the way. Probably the toughest game for either team is when Jacksonville comes to Denver in 2 weeks. I think it's going to be a fascinating race in the AFC South. And even if the Texans are the 7 seed, DeMeco Ryans will use that as fuel for a team that doesn't need any motivation.
Yeah, and you talk about the Broncos win over them looking more impressive, even though it was not C.J. Stroud. He obviously got knocked out of the game. Davis Mills went 3-0 as the starter. So I know Davis Mills is the backup, but he still looked really good outside of that Broncos game. Nearly won the game for the Texans, actually, so it's not like he looked terrible in that game either. But I think Davis Mills deserves some respect for what he's done this season as well.
Question.
3-0 as that starter, as in the fill-in role there. So I get it. I would be a little concerned about them too. That defense is legitimate, and obviously C.J. Stroud, we've seen it. He's won a playoff game, I think maybe 2 playoff games, one in each of his first 2 seasons here. So he has some playoff experience, and he's shown that he can be a playmaker in some of these games where, sometimes the play doesn't go exactly as designed, but he can go above the X's and O's and really make up for it for that Texans offense. And, I mean, the defense is scary. I would say
really scary.
It's Broncos and Texans for the best defense in the league, and then probably a pretty sizable gap after that. Maybe Seattle you can throw in there too, but I think – I don't want to be disrespectful here. I think you could say the Texans defense is on par with the Broncos defense, though.
Yeah, I think, and that's why I think it'd be an interesting matchup. It'd be a really interesting matchup should it come to that in Denver this time. And just because it would be in Denver, against that defense is going to play well anywhere. And look, I get it. It's not the Chiefs' year. I shed no tears for that. I'm glad they're not going to win the AFC West. I'm glad they're on the outside of the playoff picture looking in right now. But that Texans defense made Patrick Mahomes look pretty average and made the Chiefs offense look pretty average. I know this isn't a Chiefs offense that it was in their heyday just a few years ago, but they couldn't do a thing last night at home. And guys were dropping footballs. Mahomes was harassed and harried and under pressure. He threw 3 picks. The Texans completely suffocated the Chiefs. That was an impressive win.
They did the same thing against Josh Allen, too. And I think you could very easily say Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, 2 of the top 5 quarterbacks. I think that's going to be on everybody's list there, no matter who you are or which guys you exactly have at the top. So I think they've shown that they can make quarterbacks uncomfortable. And you don't want Bo Nix making it his, maybe it's his second NFL or second playoff start ever against that defense. I think there's a lot of teams you prefer he face early in the playoffs.
I wish the Texans and Jaguars had one more meeting in this regular season down the stretch. That would be something. The Colts are, well, let's just face it. I mean, it's heartbreaking to see Daniel Jones tear his Achilles. That's awful. But, Dante, we were of the mind a few weeks ago, go back to that Colts at Chiefs game and the whole debate who should Broncos country root for. Neither of us were sold on the Colts down the stretch, even with Daniel Jones. Hate to see him get hurt, but right now the Colts at 8-5 are out of the playoffs.
Yeah. Did you see they're bringing in
Phillip Rivers?
That's crazy.
That's insane.
I don't think we'll see him suit up for the Colts, but just the fact that you have him in for a workout is very it's fun at least. Also, I want to give Daniel Jones some props. Tore his Achilles and still completed the pass on the play. Yeah. I think that was incredibly impressive. As someone, I tore my Achilles playing like men's rec league basketball, so not exactly equivalent.
Yeah.
But I went to the ground immediately and was like, "Whoa, what was that?" And for Daniel Jones to have the mindset of, I need to get this ball out because I just probably tore my Achilles and I'm immobile at this point, I think, all kinds of credit goes to him for that.
That's crazy. The playoffs today would be Houston at New England, 7-2. Chargers at Jaguars. We saw how that turned out in the regular season. It was all Jacksonville just, couple of weeks ago. And then the Bills at the Steelers. We saw how that turned out last week. If the wild card round were this weekend. It's not, and so there's still plenty of football left to be played. I just think the way, and by the way, I want to make sure I have this right. The Texans have 3 games left at home of their 4. Arizona, the Raiders, at the Chargers, and then the Colts at home, which who is going to play quarterback for the Colts in that one? That's in the final week. The Jaguars will be home to the Jets, at Denver, at Indy, and then home versus Tennessee. So also not a very big or not a very tough schedule down the stretch. That Jacksonville at Denver game in 2 weeks, the Texans have that one circled and will be pulling for the Broncos in that game. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. How cool is it though, Dante, that we're sitting here on December the 8th, and we're talking about how the playoffs are going to set up for the Broncos? It's crazy. And not just set up. It's not about, are they going to be able to get in? What's going to happen? Who's going to have to lose? Do they need help? What do they have to do? What kind of strength of schedule do they have left of the remaining teams that they play? We're talking about how will they be the number 1 seed, and what will the field look like below them? That was not on my bingo card 3 months ago.
No, absolutely not. And you're right. It's gone from last year where it's like they're trying to sneak into the playoff, and who do they need to win for them to clinch that final 7 seed? And obviously it didn't end up mattering because the Chiefs didn't play anybody last year in Week 18, and the Broncos were able to take that last playoff spot over the Bengals. And this year it's the complete opposite of, you're trying to craft the perfect playoff bracket for the Broncos and to have the easiest route to go to the Super Bowl. So just wildly different places, but I still think we got some big games here for the Broncos these last 4 games. I want to say on the broadcast yesterday they said that it's the 3rd toughest schedule remaining out of other NFL teams. So big task ahead of them, and they can easily end up as the 3 seed if they're not careful here. I think it'd be hard for them not to win the division, but I mean, we saw in the NFC the Bears were the 1 seed going into the week, and they lost, and now they're the 6th seed in the NFC. So
7
or the 7th seed.
Yeah.
So stuff can shift very quickly, and I think it's while it's nice to have these conversations about where do we want the Broncos to seed out and who do we want them to face, I think it's still important to realize the challenge that's in front of them and not get ahead of themselves and really go out and secure that 1 seed. Hopefully by Week 17 you get to rest your guys in Week 18.
Last word on this will be the remaining schedule. We know what it is for the Broncos: Packers, Jaguars, at the Chiefs Christmas night, and then closing with the Chargers. Broncos have, if the Chargers win tonight, it'll be a 2-game lead. If they lose, it'll be a 3-game lead, which would be almost insurmountable if I have the numbers right. The Chargers close at KC next Sunday, at Dallas on the 21st, and then home to Houston and at Denver. So 3 road games out of 4. So the Broncos clearly, aside from what the standings say, are in good shape. But when you look at the remaining games, home and away, and even the quality of opponents, even with the head-to-head, the Broncos are in really good shape. But they still, as Dante said, they got to go finish the job starting this week against the Packers. We shift gears to college football. Did the committee get it right? Did Notre Dame get it right with the Irish's reaction to the field? That's next.
The Broncos won their 10th game in a row and secured a key tiebreaker over New England. With a month remaining in the season, will the road to Super Bowl 60 run through the Mile High City? Denver Sports 104.3. The Fan.
If you love distinctive, unique designer jewelry that doesn't look like everybody else, you have to experience Lika Bahar. I'm Bruce Williams.
And I'm Michelle Williams, inviting you to the Lika Bahar Trunk Show, Friday and Saturday, December 12th and 13th at Williams Jewelers in Cherry Creek North.
Designer Lika Bahar will be here in person to share with you all her latest jewelry creations direct from her Manhattan design studios.
Lika Bahar's pieces are crafted by hand using age-old jewelry-making techniques from ancient Greek and Byzantine times. You're going to love it.
Come discover Lika Bahar's burnished sterling silver and 24-karat gold collection. It's wearable art that starts at just $450.
The Lika Bahar Trunk Show, Friday and Saturday, December 12th and 13th at Williams Jewelers.
For yourself or the one you love this holiday, we'll see you there.
Williams Jewelers, we can make diamonds a part of your life.
Williams Jewelers, the official jeweler of the Colorado Avalanche.
Just how good is Pure Talk's current deal for unlimited wireless? Well, you might say it's the deal of your lifetime. Because right now, for just $29.95 a month, Pure Talk is offering unlimited talk, text, and data for life. Not your phone's life, your life. This is Pure Talk's top-tier plan. It comes with a crazy fast 5G network along with a 30-gig hotspot. And at just $29.95 a month, there has never been a better opportunity to lock in a ridiculously low rate for as long as you live. And save thousands and thousands of dollars along the way. This plan is normally $65 a month, but if you switch today, you will save over 50% every single month for the rest of your life. See what I mean? It really is the deal of your lifetime. Dial pound 250, say micro, offer ends 12/14. Some restrictions apply. Details at puretalk.com.
Hey, it's Mike Evans with Todd Whalen from Advanced Tax Solutions. Well, Todd, it couldn't last forever. The government shutdown is over. The IRS is back and ready to roll. What does that mean for folks who have an IRS bullseye painted on their back?
Well, Mike, we've seen this once before. They were completely closed during the pandemic. And what happened? They came out with their gloves on and started levying people. So now, if you have an IRS problem, it's way better if you can get a solution before you get the levy notice. You have more options, you have more time, we have the ability to do a better job. So if you're ready and it's time to get this IRS problem off your back, now's the time.
All right, Todd, I get it. The IRS is back. They mean business, but you know what? You mean business too. You've been doing this for a long time. You're ready to help folks out with all of their IRS tax issues. Give Advanced Tax Solutions a call today, 303-753-6040. That's 303-753-6040.
More than a few of our patients have talked to me about their first time, but it's not the first time you're probably thinking about. It's the first time that erectile dysfunction ruined the moment. This is Jeff for the Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic, and if you're over 50, it's likely you've had that first time yourself. But the good news is that if you're like most men, that first time can be the last time that ED impacts your sex life. At the Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic, we're experts in treating ED. We've treated tens of thousands of men using protocols with success rates well over 90%. And those treatments have, in most cases, made sex great again for both them and their partners. You could even find that you're performing like you haven't in years. So if ED has been affecting your intimacy, it's time to make the last time that happens, the last time that happens. For just $99, you'll receive blood work, a medical consult, and if medically advised, a test dose. And if that test dose doesn't work in the office, your visit is free. Call 720-440-7900 or go to RockyMountainMen'sClinic.com. We have 5 offices across the Front Range to serve you.
Thinking about buying a home in Colorado? You're not the only one. And now might be your best shot. We're officially in a buyer's market, guys, which means you've got the upper hand. More homes on the market, competition is down, and serious deals are out there just waiting to be found. Whether you're a first-time buyer or looking to upgrade or downsize, now's the time to get pre-approved. And American Financing can make that happen in 24 hours or less. Interest rates are competitive, and home prices have been stable. That means you can find a great deal while locking in a monthly payment that fits your budget. Plus, with home equity building over time, your investment grows, making home ownership a smart, long-term financial decision. If you continue to pay rent, you're just paying your landlord's mortgage, and you don't need 20% down. You could be in your new home with as little as 3% down. Plus, they offer down payment assistance programs to make home ownership even easier. So call American Financing at 303-695-7000 or visit them online at americanfinancing.net. NMLS 182334, NMLSconsumeraccess.org.
This segment on 104.3 The Fan brought to you by Flanagan Law.
Stay up to date on the Broncos with our 9 News Broncos insider Mike Kliss, presented by Fitness Gallery. Hear the latest from every practice and every game every single week during football season. Denver Sports 104.3 The Fan. It's Reaction Monday. Power.
In the first round, 5 through 12, Oregon versus James Madison. The 8-9 matchup, Oklahoma versus Alabama. 6 versus 11, Ole Miss home to Tulane. 7-10 will be Texas A&M against Miami. Did the committee get it right, Dante?
Given the guidelines, yes. I don't necessarily love the guidelines.
I was about to say the same thing.
I think that they should actually tweak it to not 5 conference champions. I would word it as 5 conferences are represented. So that way Miami would count as the ACC team. Then you don't have to have James Madison in there, and then you could add another at-large between BYU and Notre Dame at that point.
Okay, so that's the workaround for the group of 5 conference champion, if you will, or champion.
Well, no, I still like that there is a path for a 5th conference to have a representation in the tournament.
Yes.
I just think the fact that Duke ended up winning the ACC, and obviously Duke wasn't going to go to the tournament, then at that point we have 2 group of 5s. I think that's a bit much.
But that's also an ACC problem.
Yeah, but in my revised model, that Miami would count as the ACC bid instead of having 2 group of 5s.
There was a lot of talk about Alabama, and I will just say this about the whole process. It's magnified, and I get that the football selection and the football playoff is not the same as the basketball tournament. I get it. There are principles, though, I think that we can look at, which I think do cross over. But generally speaking, there are politics and big money involved in this process, and it's magnified in football because there's only 12 spots. In basketball, if you're really on the bubble for 67, 68, 69, 70, that's your own fault. I still like a 24-team model. I think they're going to get there probably eventually, and I think bowl games are basically dead now. We've seen that with the reaction of Notre Dame and other schools who are 5-7 and passing up a bowl game against Georgia Southern. But I will say, Dante, the Alabama thing bugs me. And this points to the sort of the politics of it. When Alabama I think it was the second to last weekly poll, or maybe it was the last weekly poll, they moved them up into that 9 spot. And it was clearly to protect the Tide, who didn't make it last year. To me, it was clearly to protect them, to try and ensure that Alabama will get in. And the whole debate about conference championship games, this is the point that I can't understand why people don't get. People are saying, well, should you be penalized if you make a conference championship game, but if you don't and you don't play, but the team in the conference championship game loses, why would you penalize them? Look, it's about how you lose. BYU got ripped. Alabama got routed. Ohio State and Indiana played a very competitive game, 1 versus 2, and Ohio State dropped 1 spot. They weren't going to fall out of the playoff, obviously. They weren't even going to fall out of the top 4. If Indiana had blown Ohio State out, they wouldn't be 2. So the fact that Alabama played in the SEC championship game is not the issue. It's that they got boat raced in that game. They weren't even in that game. That's the way I see it. I see you snickering at me.
I don't think you should get penalized at all for playing in a conference championship. I felt the same way last year when SMU played Clemson in the ACC championship and SMU loses, but they still were able to stay in the playoffs given that they had an 11-1 record going into the game. And Alabama got the short end of the stick in that situation by them thinking they should have been the last at-large bid. SMU ends up taking that last at-large bid. I feel the same way this year, that I don't think Alabama should be penalized for playing in the SEC championship game either. Same as BYU, same as Ohio State. List all the teams there. I think there's a difference between not rewarding a team that loses and penalizing them. So I have no problem with Alabama making it into the playoff. I think Alabama should have been rated ahead of Notre Dame to start with. I think it's crazy that Notre Dame, they were ranked in every single AP poll. I know the AP poll and the College Football Committee poll are different, but it just drives me up a wall that Notre Dame was ranked in the AP poll and they were 0-2. Like, that just doesn't make sense. How do you have an 0-2 team with all these other 2-0 teams on the top 25. So I think Notre Dame should have had to work their way up more than they did. And to me, that's my bigger issue with the ranking system and what transpired the last month or so with the College Football Committee rankings. They should have had Notre Dame be the one that's, crawling up the rankings week by week with all these wins. Instead, they kind of got the benefit of the doubt from the beginning, and then, it comes time to decide who's actually in this tournament, and I think they got it right. I think Miami deserves to be in over Notre Dame. Obviously, they played that game on the field earlier this year. Miami wins, and I think you really take away from the games if it wasn't that way. If they would put Notre Dame in over Miami, I think it's like, hey, what's the point of even going out there and playing the games?
No, I'm with you there, but then why did that head-to-head only come into play, as the chairman said, when the two teams were next to each other? The other thing, too, we're going to have to pick this up on Friday, you and me, because if you shouldn't penalize a team for making a conference championship game, I think you just made the case to just eliminate the conference championships.
Yeah, and that's not crazy. I think there's rewards, and I think there's something to still winning a championship. I mean, but Indiana still had confetti falling from the the ceiling.
If the game's not going to mean anything, if you lose big, why play the game other than money and ratings?
We get the opportunity to go win your conference. I think that means something. But going out and winning the SEC, that's hard to do.
But it's not about the conference championships anymore. It's about the national championship bracket.
I agree, and that's probably we might see conference championships go away if they do go to a 16 or 24 team bracket. In that case, maybe it doesn't make sense to have conference championships anymore, unless maybe it's the smaller conferences for their representation in the tournament.
As always, fun, my friend. Have a good week.
You as well, Mike.
For Dante Gomez, Mike Rice, thanks for being with us on Denver Sports tonight on 104.3 The Fan.
The Broncos offense came out swinging, thanks to a strong performance by R.J. Harvey. Is the rookie runner proving he can be trusted to take control of Denver's backfield? Denver Sports.